with what's left of this clay that I was throwing earlier, I'm going to make a bottom for one of my lids. So I've got this lid right here that I've thrown. And it's a good idea to always measure these lids when they're on the wheel. Once you've taken them off the wheel, you may shift them a little bit. Here I've got my calipers, and I can set them, tighten them up, usually using 2 hands. I'm going to measure the inside, the angle of where that corner is inside of there. So I'm going to get these calipers in there. It's a little bit tighter. This is the other reason to do it on the wheel, is that you don't have to balance it up here on your one hand. All right. So I've measured the distance of the of that underside here, and I'm going to make a gallery in this piece, and using these calipers I'm going to measure how big that gallery needs to be. Now these calipers can be set 2 ways. Right now it's on the 1-to-1 ratio. This wing nut is in the hole that says 1-to-1. There's also a wing nut here for pieces that have dried a little bit, and so that one takes a little bit more planning because you're measuring pieces that are at a different stage of wetness. But for right now we're going to use the 1-to-1 because it's the easiest one to work with. So I'm going to get this clay centered, and then I'm going to use my calipers. I'm using the same clay, actually the same wedged ball of clay, since I happen to throw off the hump on this particular piece. And that means that my clay should shrink the same amount. I shouldn't have any issue. If you use dry clay for the lid and wet clay for the base, you may find that your base shrinks more and then your lid doesn't fit. So we're trying to avoid that. So I'm going to drill my hole, make a nice flat floor on this piece. And I should have a fairly good size edge here. My piece is going to get a little bit wider at the top, and partly that's because I didn't leave myself very much clay. So I'm going to open up my floor, make a nice flat bottom, compress that bottom, compress my rim, and then as I pull up I'm going to try to angle these walls out just a bit. I'm also going to keep some thickness up there in my wall because of how I'm going to make that gallery. Check to make sure I'm in good shape. See, I am just a little narrow still, but before I get to that rim I'm going to take care of my flat floor with my rib. My rib's just barely going to fit in this little guy here. Alright. So there are a couple ways to split the rims, as we've seen before, and a couple ways to make galleries. I'm going to make a gallery on the inside here, and I'm just going to use the edge of the wooden rib to compress some of this clay straight down. You want to make sure that your clay is not super thin underneath, that your wall of your piece isn't thin or it's going to want to rip on you. And now as I measure that, that is the right, my rim is the right, my gallery is the right distance, but I've leaned out this outside wall just a little bit, so I'm going to come in and mess with that just a bit. Make sure things are nice and straight, nice and compressed, and then I'll check this again. Alright? Now if I've got enough clay underneath and I left that wall kind of thick, I can thin that out underneath. I sometimes like to make kind of a little bellied out kind of form here on pieces with the gallery. It's also good to make sure, double check that your inside edge of your gallery is still flat. Sometimes when you're messing with it, it tilts down just a little bit. And then I'm going to re-measure this. I'm going to do this for the video, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing it all the time. I'm going to grab this other piece by its knob and see how close it is to fitting it. Alright, it sits right down on there, and I just realized I did the measurement wrong. What I've done is I've created a piece where it sits down onto there. So I'm actually going to take off this little gallery here because I've done it the wrong way. Shoot. Alright, so what I have done, I just forgot what I was doing. What I've done is I've made a measurement so that this edge here is where that gallery, where that lid is going to sit, and it sits straight down onto there. And again, it doesn't move around because that edge sits inside and on top of that lid. A gallery works slightly differently, and that's not what I did. Darn it.